How did Mike Tyson affect Thor's fighting style? What secret helped Taika Waititi reinvent Thor? And what spicy details did Chris Hemsworth spill about the upcoming Love and Thunder? Hi, I'm Dylan, and you're watching Awesome Movies. The first Thor. Why was it so boring? We saw The God of Thunder for the first time 10 years ago. Directed by Kenneth Branagh, this film gave us a redemptive arc for Thor. Even though it was beautifully made, it was quite cliched. Banished from his world in the beginning, the protagonist struggles and eventually becomes the superhero he's been destined to become. Yeah, we've seen it, like, a million times. But even in this bland film, Chris Hemsworth still managed to show Thor's development. He begins as an excessively proud young man who attacks the enemy against his father's will. But when he finds himself on Earth without his superpower, he shows his other side. He's more than a pretty face and a load of muscles, he's also kind and smart. He's humble enough to say that he's not ready to rule, and he even attempts to fight a huge enemy without his hammer. Speaking of Thor's style of fighting, did you know that when preparing for his role and reading the Thor comics, Hemsworth noticed that Thor gets a lot of his strength from the ground? The actor explained to MTV News, "We talked about boxers, you know, Mike Tyson, very low to the ground and big open chest and big shoulder swings and very sort of brutal but graceful at the same time." They certainly used a good reference for the fight scenes, but despite everything, Thor managed to go from an arrogant prince to a strong, worthy man, and it was only the first step in his marvelous evolution. Avengers. Why Thor didn't have to assemble? Even though Thor is one of the strongest and coolest superheroes in the MCU, the primary role Joss Whedon gave him was just being the main villain's brother. Well, he was notable for having the most beautiful flowing blonde hair, of course, but the Loki thing was kinda more important. Here's how Hemsworth felt about it. He's constantly having to battle the greater good and what he should do versus it's his little brother there. I've been frustrated with my brothers at times, or family, but I'm the only one who's allowed to be angry at them. There's a bit of that. Yeah, and that's pretty much all he does. Let me put it this way. Can you imagine the first Avengers movie without Iron Man, without Captain America or Hulk? You probably can't, because they were indispensable. And now, imagine it without Thor. Remove a few non-essential conversations and jokes, and the plot would stay the same. Except for a bit of added humor, Thor didn't have any character development in Avengers. He's pretty much the same God of Thunder we saw in the first Thor movie. The only thing that happens to him is the realization that his brother is a true villain. But that was the end of Thor's boring life, because this is where the real challenges finally began for him. The Dark World. What was so underwhelming about it? Oh yeah, it was dark. Literally. At times, it was so dark that it was even hard to figure out what was happening on the screen. At the beginning of the film, Thor's heartbroken. He still can't reconcile the fact that his brother is evil, he misses his beloved Jane Foster, his mother is stabbed, and half of his kingdom is destroyed. And the throne doesn't make things any easier. Thor's now coming to the realization of what responsibility comes with that, Hemsworth shared with Screen Rant. Director Alan Taylor made sure to show the dark side of this responsibility and, along with the lead actor, managed to make the Norse god wiser. According to Chris, in this movie, he wanted to break him down and find his human qualities and his vulnerable side. And he also started showing off his humorous side more actively. Even though the movie is so dark, it still has quite a few funny moments, and it slowly moves us towards the next standalone film about Thor. But before we proceed to it, let's see how the God of Thunder assembled with the Avengers for the second time. Age of Ultron. Finally getting more important. Interestingly, it was the first movie with Thor that didn't feature Loki or any Asgardian drama whatsoever. So it gave Thor a chance to stand separately from his identity and show his other sides. Hemsworth and Joss Whedon continued exploring Thor's humaneness in the Age of Ultron. According to Chris, he wanted to make him a little more grounded and human, and have him in some civilian clothes and mixing it up at a party. He's no longer an alien. He starts to fit in this world and understands it better. And unlike in the first Avengers movie, Thor becomes a much more important character. He's the first to learn about the Infinity Stones. It's him who realizes the danger of them getting into the wrong hands and decides to go on a search for them. But despite all that, didn't it occur to you that the Norse gods seemed kinda dull? If it did, you're not the only one who thought so. The result of this is the next Thor installment. Ragnarok, a completely different Thor. This is when his evolution began. Drastically. By this time, Chris Hemsworth was bored with his character, so he wanted to experiment with him as much as he possibly could. As a result, we see Thor with shorter hair, wearing a different outfit, and even losing his all-time favorite weapon and friend, Mjolnir. Taika Waititi, the film director, played a crucial role in his transformation from just another superhero to the God of Thunder who has finally found his true power. That's what you're going to see. The excitement of something incredibly unique and different for not only the Thor world, but the Marvel Universe, Hemsworth shared in an interview while presenting the movie back in 2017. He couldn't be more right. Ragnarok became an outstanding film, not only in the Thor trilogy, but in the entire MCU. And it was something Thor needed desperately to avoid becoming the dullest Marvel hero. In Ragnarok, Thor's at his very best as a character. He reveals his quick wit by coming up with the plan to steal the Avengers' Quinjet and use it to get back to Asgard. At his lowest point, feeling completely powerless, he finally realizes that he's not the god of hammers, and he's stronger than he thinks. Giving the character new freedom, Waititi made him more multifaceted and seamlessly blended in new sides of Thor we hadn't seen before. He turned an almost invincible god into a relatable and vulnerable man who becomes more open and honest. Above all, Waititi gave Thor a sense of humor that basically became the character's new trademark. And eventually, the director found a way to make Thor the real king of Asgard and complete the arc Kenneth Branagh set up for him in the first film. But it isn't the end for Thor, because he soon becomes a king without a kingdom and faces an even bigger challenge: to grow even more. Infinity War, becoming a tortured hero. He loses his entire country and half of his people. His friend and little brother are killed right in front of him. Thor's evidently in pain, and it's seen throughout the movie, but it doesn't stop him. Talking to Rocket, who turns out to be a good psychologist, Thor explains, "What more do I have to lose?" This single phrase and determination to defeat Thanos show Thor's incredible growth. He doesn't want to kill his enemy out of reactionary fury, but out of his deep sense of loss. Thor, he's gone through a radical transformation, and he's moving forward in a way where he can never go back, Anthony Russo, one of the movie directors, said to the Mary Sue. In Infinity War, we admire him for his strength, sympathize for his loss, and love him for remaining the funny, badass Thor. But in the end, instead of killing the main villain, Thor loses again. And this time, he loses it big. If only he went for the head. Endgame, from Lebowski to worthy Thor. This is where we see him broken to the core. After failing to kill Thanos, Thor hides in the land now called the New Asgard, drinks beer, eats junk food, and plays Fortnite with his friends Korg and Meek. The classic example of post-traumatic stress disorder. But Joe and Anthony Russo didn't add Lebowski Thor to the movie just to turn him into the butt of a joke, although we have to agree that there were quite a few good ones. It's not a gag. It's a manifestation of where he is on a character level, and we think it's one of the most relatable aspects of him. I mean, it's a very common sort of response to depression and pain, Anthony Russo revealed to Entertainment Weekly. Only after meeting his mother and successfully summoning his hammer does Thor realize that he's still worthy, and he fights his enemy once again. This time, with his full powers, not only with his two weapons, but also with an acceptance of his failures. In the end, he renounces being a king and gives the reign to Valkyrie, saying, "It's time to be who I am rather than who I'm supposed to be." Those are wise words, but who is he exactly? It's probably something we're going to learn in the next Thor installment, Love and Thunder. What to expect? Once again, Taika Waititi will direct a Thor film, and we expect it to be as hilarious and deep as Ragnarok. He's also going to reprise the role of Korg, and as the director mentioned in a Ragnarok watch party on Instagram about a month ago, we're going to learn more about this character's culture. At the moment, we can only guess how Thor is going to develop further, but since Waititi is at the helm again, we can be sure that it's going to be something epic and hilarious. Waititi is also writing a script for Love and Thunder. He promises us an even louder and more impressive sequel, and Chris Hemsworth, who has already eyed the script, says that it's awesome. It's Taika at his most extreme, and at his best, the actor commented. Sure, Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are back as Thor and Valkyrie, but the most exciting news came when it was revealed that Christian Bale is cast in Love and Thunder. It's unclear what role he's going to play, but Tessa Thompson said that he might be the main villain. Will we see the former Batman as a bad guy this time? If so, it'll be just like Harvey Dent said in The Dark Knight, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And of course, we'll see the return of Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, who's going to become Mighty Thor. We're so excited about it all! But will we see Guardians of the Galaxy in Love and Thunder? And will Jeff Goldblum return as Grand Master? To learn the answers to these and more questions about Love and Thunder, as well as other MCU Phase 4 premieres, watch our video where we will tell you all the Marvel updates. Are you looking forward to seeing Love and Thunder as much as we are? And what do you think about Thor's transformation in the MCU? Share your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay awesome. Thanks for watching.